solving a system of equation word problems, or actually taking word problems and solving them using a system of equations. When solving a system of equations word problem, each sentence will be written algebraically as an equation. And that's typically what we see. Sometimes the information is all in one sentence, but typically we find it in two separate sentences. So we're going to look at this first one. First one says the length of a rectangle is 5 times its width. So that first sentence right there is going to be able to be translated into an equation. If you think back to Unit 2 when we did translations, we're pulling on that skill. So length of a rectangle is, we know that's equals 5 times the width. So there we go. Length is 5 times the width. Then we have another sentence that says the perimeter is 96. Now the temptation here is to introduce another variable, to say P is 96, but that's an issue because for a system of equations, with 2 equations to be solvable, we need to have only 2 variables, so we don't want to go introducing a third variable. So we think, how could I write this without using P? Well, a couple things you could do. You could look at your formula sheet, and there is a perimeter formula on your formula sheet for a rectangle. Or you could think of how you find the perimeter of a rectangle. So I'm just thinking about a rectangle, and I know it has a length, has 2 lengths, and has 2 widths. Well, then I can use that picture to come up with my equation. So my equation here, instead of having a P in it, instead of putting P, I'm going to put how I would find P. I would take length plus width plus length plus width. And that equals 96. Now you can clean that up a little bit since we have 2 lengths and 2 widths, so we could simplify that equation to be 2L plus 2W equals 96. And this is actually the formula for perimeter that you would see on your formula sheet. Now that we have our 2 equations with 2 variables, we can solve it. So here are my equations. I have length is equal to 5W, and then I have 2L plus 2W is equal to 96. And then I just decide what method I want to use. For this one, substitution would be the best because I have one of the equations solved for one variable. I know that L is 5W. So I am going to replace L right there with 5W. So 2 times 5W plus 2W equals 96. And you can see I just did substitution there. Replaced L with the 5W. Now I can solve this. That's going to be 10W plus 2W equals 96. I'm running out of space, so I'm going to come over this way. Combine my terms. I end up with 12W equals 96. Divide by 12 on both sides. And what does W equal? W equals 8. Now remember, just like in all the other systems of equations, we had 2 variables to solve for. So in this case, we needed to know W, which we found right here. But we also need to know L. So to find L, I'm going to go back to this top equation. And remember, you could go to either equation, but we try to pick the one that would be simplest to solve. So L is equal to 5 times W, but I know what W is. It's 8. So 5 times 8 is 40. So what is my L? L is 40. There's my 2 answers. Now notice here, even though this is an ordered pair, I really need to make sure, instead of just calling them X and Y, that I'm identifying what they are in reference to the word problem. So my width is 8 and my length is 40. You can always, of course, go back and check that. You can look at your picture and say, hey, say if I put a 40 in, and a 40 in, and an 8, and an 8, and I added those up, would I get 96? And I do get 96. Second problem. It says 4 hamburgers and 2 drinks cost $15. And then 3 hamburgers and 4 drinks cost $15. And I need to determine how much each item would be, what cost. So my first sentence, 4 hamburgers, I'm going to call that 4H, plus 2 drinks, 2D, equals $15. There's my first equation from that first sentence. My second equation from that second sentence is 3 hamburgers plus 4 drinks equals $15. Now I have my 2 equations, and what method would be best here? Really decide, you could decide what you want to do. I think elimination would work well, or if you wanted to use the app in your calculator, you could do that also. I'm going to do it by hand with elimination. I'm going to rewrite my 2 equations. And I'm kind of focusing in on my D's because I can see that if I just multiply that top by a -2, that those D's would eliminate. So I'm going to multiply that top equation by -2. And so my top equation is now going to be -8h minus 4d is equal to a -30. My bottom equation is not changing, so I can keep that exactly the same. 3h plus 4d equals 15. Then I'm going to use elimination, which means I'm going to add these vertically. Adding my h's, I get -5h. Adding my d's, well, they eliminate. That's what I did. That's why I manipulated that equation. And then adding my constants, I get -15. Divide by -5. And h is equal to 3. Very important here, though. I need to think about what the problem is asking me. So, hamburgers, which is h for me, equals $3. And that was asking for how much does each one cost, so I need to make sure I'm answering what was asked. I can't just say 3. I have to say $3. Now I need to find the price of my drink, so I need to pick one of those equations. I'll just go back to the first one. It doesn't matter. 4h plus 2d equals 15. And I'm going to use substitution here because I know what h is. So 4 times 3 plus 2d equals 15. So all I did there was replace h with 3, because that's what I know h is, how much it costs. So it's 12 plus 2d equals 15. Minus 12. And 2d is equal to 3. Divide by 2. And d is equal to 3/2, which is 1.5, but it's money. So the price for my drinks is $1.50. So my hamburgers cost $3, my drinks are $1.50. And if I wanted to, I could go back and check it in either equations or both, make sure that that works. Turn it over to the back. We have one more problem, money problem. This one takes a little bit of thinking sometimes. So it says, John has 34 coins in his piggy bank. So that's one sentence. And I'm going to probably make that into an equation. And then the second sentence says he only has nickels and dimes, and it totals $2.90. And then how much of each coin does he have? So I can already see what my variables are going to be, nickels and dimes, and I'll actually just use N and D. The tricky part is that first sentence, because it does give me an equation. But a lot of times we miss that because we don't see the nickels and dimes in that sentence. It's saying that nickels and dimes, nickels plus dimes equals 34 coins. And then the second sentence is going to give me that second equation, which is that if I actually look at their value, a nickel is 0.05. So 0.05 nickels, that's how much a nickel is worth, plus a dime, which is 0.10 D, equals 2.90, because that was our value. Now solving this one, because of those decimals being there, I would definitely use the app in our calculator. You could get rid of those decimals by multiplying by 10, but I just think it's easier for this problem to use the app, and you are allowed to use the app, so why not? So go and put that into your app. Our matrix here would be 1, 1, 34. So remember these coefficients are 1, 0.05, 0.1, and then 2.9. So that's the matrix I'm putting in my calculator. Now the thing with the calculator is you've got to remember the calculator is not going to have N and D. It's going to have X and, well, depending on which one you're using. If you're using the black and white, it's going to have X1 and X2. And if you're using the color calculator, it's going to say X and Y. So you need to know which is which. The first thing I'm putting in here in my first column is N. So the first number it's giving me is N in the calculator. So N equals 10, and then D equals 24. So I have 10 nickels and 24 dimes. Now, as far as this goes, I always like to check the money ones because they're, they're fairly easy to check mentally. If I look at that, I have 34 coins because 10 plus 24 is 34 coins. And then I think about the value. If I have 10 nickels and they're each worth 5 cents, each worth 5 cents, that's 50 cents. And if I have 24 dimes and they're each worth 10 cents, that's going to be $2.40. And if I add that up, I get $2.90, which is what my problem said I should have. All right, you have a couple problems to do for you dudes. Make sure you always go back